what we would love to do at our schools. I mean, feel free to make it up and dream big, but talk about how you would position your partnership to fulfill what we deem these necessary components. But as an organization, we not only pull together groups of educators across the country in regional meetings. We do about 12 regional meetings a year in different cities. We pull together all the educators that are involved in this work, public, private, and charter, some community organizations and nonprofits. And we talk about not only the best practices that are happening in these communities, but also what can we dream big about doing for our communities collectively? How can we look at all of our different programs and strategize to make it the most impactful on a community? In addition to that, we have a database on our website. It's the only searchable database of partnership programs in the country. So every member of our organization, we write up a description of each individual partnership program that they have. It's on there. If you're interested in an elementary school literacy program, you type in elementary school literacy and up pops all of the schools that are doing different programs. It allows you to see it's not a one-size-fits-all program. You can pick and choose. We are, like my favorite thing in the world is connect people. So we love to connect you to other schools who are doing things so you don't have to reinvent the wheel or make the same mistakes that somebody's already made, and take all the advantage of having somebody have already started this work and learn from it. So that's who we are.
Is that a list accessible to the public, or do you?
Yes, currently it's accessible to the public. So right now we have certain ways that we assess our program. The very first way we have is, and all of this is, I've printed out copies of these things in your folders. We have developed a Principles of Good Practice. The Principles of Good Practice was developed by, actually I'll go through the three and then we'll talk about them separately. We also have a framework for effective partnership, which is the one with the Venn diagram. Is that what it is? Yes. I'm not a math. I'm a Spanish teacher. The Venn diagram. I always want to call it concentric circles, and I know that's not right.
No, they are at all.
Also not concentric.
Speaking as a math person, these are not concentric.
No, I know. But it's pretty.
Capital
It's pretty.
Yeah. It is. Looks great.
Pretty. Still lotus.
So we have a framework for effective partnership,
Zen, right?
and you'll see on the front with the Venn diagram that we illustrate what we see are the three major components of a partnership program, and that the middle, I always try to say the cornerstone, but it's circles. The center, the heart of this is the strength of the relationship, and I think that has been a theme that we've been talking about for this entire time. Is that none of this happens without strong relationships. And the final thing we are developing right now is a rubric for effective partnership, because I know as educators we love ourselves a good rubric. So we are trying, it's a draft and you'll see it today. It has we have to finish with an advisory board of just finishing the details, but I wanted to share with you and ask you for your feedback when we look at it today. I think it's going to be an excellent tool to sit down with your partners to just facilitate a conversation, so that the conversation is open about where can we make improvements in what we're doing, and where are our strengths, and how can we share that with other parts of our school community that are doing similar things, etc. So we'll get there as well. So the Principles of Good Practice we developed about a year or 18 months ago, and we took about 14 public, charter, and independent school educators, and we had many conversations back and forth about what are the key components to establishing a good partnership program. This is traditional language for NAIS. So in independent schools, they have, on the website, they have a ton of different principles of good practice for admissions and principle of good practice for diversity and inclusion. And this was adopted by them as the principles of good practice for partnership work. So it's guiding language, and it's a tool for you to initiate conversation with your partners, and also initiate conversation with your administrators and the people that you're working with at your school about what are your goals and what are your intentions to establishing a good partnership program. So the overview is that the purpose of partnerships is among independent, private, and public schools, as well as nonprofits, serving the public good, enriching the journey towards fulfilling each institution's mission and vision. And we'll come back to that. It's extremely important that that the goal of what you're doing reflects back clearly on what your school's mission is and that you can articulate that clearly. I think schools are really working towards that more now. It's all over the walls here at Hathaway Brown. It's very clear when they're doing things that they are teaching not for schools but for life or some, I'm paraphrasing, but it's there. What is it?
We learn not for school but for life.
Right, and you can point right back to what you're doing because that's your motto, and there it is, and it's beautiful, and I've seen it multiple times through, and it's clear and concise. Also, the principles, hallmarks, the healthy and transformative public-private partnerships that include high levels of trust, commitment, respect, that drive synergistic teamwork, collaboration, and innovation in education. You'll see some of these words repeated throughout this entire presentation: trust, commitment, respect. We all understand that those are clear and obvious necessities for a good partnership program. I promise I will not read all of these to you. You can read them yourselves. I'm pretty sure if you made it to this table, you can read your principles for yourself. But when you want to refer back to what are the key components, these are key components. I really think that the PGPs are the perfect place to start. When you are thinking about a partnership program, it's a great place to start and to build from there. And then the framework, which we'll look at next, is an excellent place while you're in the work, right? It's an excellent conversation starter. So you'll see we have the strategic engagement of all the stakeholders, the reciprocity of value. That means that there is value not only to me, but to my partner. And it's not just that our kids are getting all of the benefit and that you cannot articulate what the other partner is receiving. It needs to be a reciprocity, it needs to be a two-way street, and along those lines there needs to be a clarity of what the purpose of this, and it doesn't have to be complex, and it doesn't have to be, you know, super hard to achieve. It just needs to be clear, why are we doing this work, right? Are we doing this work to stop summer slide? That's an easy, articulated clarity of purpose. So along with these, we have these sort of framing questions or clarifying questions about clarity, about reciprocity, about engagement. And I think those are, again, this is not a formal assessment process. You're not going to be able to collect data based on what we are handing you today, but it's a conversation and it's anecdotal and it's a really good way to facilitate transformation in your programs, to enhance them and to sort of address some issues that you might not necessarily know exist until you have a conversation with your partner. Okay, so here is the rubric, and I couldn't fit it all on a page where you could actually read the words. But I'll tell you that this is obviously the strong, middle, weak. Relationship and engagement, clarity, reciprocity, and assessment. I really think that the last missing component of that framework is, are you assessing what you're doing? Are you talking about, is this working for us, and is this strong or is this weak? Are you keeping data or metrics, I mean quantitative and qualitative data on what you are doing? It's the last missing component of partnership work. Independent schools can get away with saying it feels good and we do it because we know it's right and so we're going to do it. But public schools and charter schools don't have that flexibility. So in order to be able to encourage them to take up some of their curricular time to do this kind of work, we need to have data and proof that this is valuable for the education of their children. So that, I feel like, is our last missing component. You can see quickly it's the same components. Stakeholders identified, shared and independent goals identified, relationship based on trust, both institutions invested and committed to the partnership. It doesn't work if only one of you wants to have a partnership and the other one is just begrudgingly participating. Clarity, purpose of work and desired outcomes are articulated. School documents such as mission and strategic plan place emphasis on partnership and community engagement. A formal collaborative plan is discussed and articulated. Reciprocity, outcome of partnership is valued by all stakeholders. Power balance or imbalance is addressed periodically throughout the program. It's not a bad program if you have an imbalance. It's only if you don't address it or acknowledge it and try to work it out. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be a perfectly balanced power balance. but Stacy Kurtzman from Castellet House said the other day that you have to, and she's paraphrasing somebody else, but you have to take that there's capital of all different kinds. There's intellectual capital, there's financial capital, and there's social capital. And so you look at all of those, because independent schools have the financial capital. You're never going to be able to, you know, balance that power difference, but you can balance the three in a different way. And I think that's so crucial to think about it, because while an independent school can host host their partner every single time and put out food and have this space and do all that, how do you make sure that you offset that imbalance with something else?
What was the third? It was intellectual,
social. And then finally, assessment, and I've said that before, an ongoing feedback loop so that everybody can talk about it. Reflection sessions conducted with the participants, whether it's the teachers or if it's a professional development situation, or the students or the teachers and students when it's a whole classroom exercise. And metrics of effectiveness and impact of partnership kept both quantitative and qualitative. Yes, ma'am.
I hope this is not too disruptive. I want to share something I've been kind of wrestling with relative to this, and that is, I'm wondering where the idea of substantive content fits. And maybe it fits under clarity, but it strikes me that the best partnerships include meaningful work together, not just getting together, but in fact producing something together. I think about Alexandra's third graders, and my guess is the best experience are the ones that are not solely social, getting to know each other, and that has very high value, but it's when those third graders actually produce something together. And so I'm not sure where that fits, but I'm personally wrestling with that, with sort of the content of whether we're bringing teachers together or kids together, what are they actually doing?
Well, I think that's great, but what's one part of a partnership? Because what if it's the professional development part? I mean, you're not actually creating anything, you're sharing knowledge, right?
Right. Well, you might be maybe your outcome then is shared proficiency in something.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess that's
That's
it's a
does
content
anybody have
goal.
any thoughts?
I'm wondering where a content goal might fit and whether that's an appropriate addition.
And the clarity, like
Maybe.
a clear
Maybe.
goal, content, outcome?
Perhaps. Or maybe it belongs in assessment. I'm not sure, but I just offer that up as it's just something I'm personally wrestling with at the moment. It seems like a criteria we're not talking a lot about yet. I wonder about that. That the work needs to be meaningful. The relationship is absolutely, I think, almost always the ultimate goal, but it needs to be some kind of meaningful outcome. Yeah.
I just was going to say, I think that the struggle has been for me when we do that. When we've tried to do it, especially with students, then it becomes about like the thing.
Okay.
And really, ultimately, the relationship for me is the most important. I feel like
thing.
a lot of what we're experiencing nationally right now is because people didn't get to know people. They just got to know, like, this group is coming into my school and we're going to create something. And it doesn't, I feel like we've spent so much time on the content that we've lost this kind of like people to people, person to person.
Okay.
And people are like, did we do an hour? Did we finish the project?
Okay.
And they're not focused on, did I even look them in the eyes?
Okay, so it distracts us, maybe. Okay, that's helpful, thank you. Just my own journey here.
Go ahead, Alex.
I've had a little bit different experience. Maybe it's just the nature of the school that I work at and the university atmosphere, but if we didn't have a clear content goal, then we wouldn't be able to get the professionals together. So we asked them to create a project, to create a thing with the understanding that your byproduct should be relationship building, and how do you accomplish that relationship building through a specific project end goal. And we did fund some, we call it a coffee clutch for our English teachers, and they basically just get together and chat, but we also expect them to have something to bring to the table at the end of that, 3-month period.
So maybe we just leave this as an open-ended question. It's just something I'm sort of wrestling with,
Well, it's
so
sort of
thank
like,
you.
it's some view the content as the vehicle towards the relationship, and some view the relationship as a vehicle to the content, and it's which which way is right, and maybe there isn't a right
Maybe
way.
not.
But as long as the I personally, and I'm not like the end-all expert on this, but I think the relationship is the end goal.
Yeah.
And so as long as the relationship is the priority,
Yeah,
and
then
that
it doesn't matter.
for the partnership, I think that it will be a strong partnership,
Mhm.
and the outcomes may not always be clearly able to be demonstrated. Okay,
Thank you for allowing that detour.
Oh, please, and detour, this is the benefit of having these small conversations, is that we can really talk about this. And so this is the end of me talking specifically about our different forms of assessment. And I would like us to get in groups of 3 or 4 and look at these 2 case studies. And you can just choose one, you don't have to choose 2. One is from the Washington International School in DC, and it's a professional development program that they have developed. And the other is a coding camp from Spence School, and I don't know if you guys have had a chance to meet Danielle Pasno here. This is her program. I adore this program. I made these extremely brief case studies. If you have clarifying questions, I'd be happy to clear up, because there are a lot of sort of unanswered questions in there that might help you when you're going through the 3 or 4 discussion questions at the end. So I would suggest you get with people that you don't necessarily know or are married to, and